Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're tackling a topic I know a lot of you are thinking about, the future of work. And, well, honestly, how can we even think about the future of work without understanding what's happening with AI?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to avoid, right?
Totally. And, one book that's really been shaping my thinking on this is AI Superpowers by Kai-Fu Lee. He dives deep into how China is becoming a global AI powerhouse and what that means for the rest of the world.
What's so fascinating about this book is that Lee connects the dots between China's culture, its government policies, and this just incredible entrepreneurial spirit that's driving their AI scene.
Right. And he makes a compelling case that to understand the future of work, we really need to understand what's happening in China. So for this deep dive, we're going to unpack some of the key insights from AI superpowers and, well, explore how they might impact all of us.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so one of the things that really struck me early on in the book was the story about AlphaGo. You remember that?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
The AI that beat Lee Sedol, the world champion Go player.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I vaguely remember this happening, but Lee really drives home the point that this was like a Sputnik moment for China.
It totally was. I mean, think about it. While most of the world saw it as a cool tech demo, China saw it as a wake-up call. Over 280 million people in China watched those matches, and when AlphaGo won, it just ignited this massive surge in AI investment and research.
It's amazing how a single event can be such a catalyst for change. So what happened after that? Like, how did China's AI scene actually change?
Well, it was like someone flipped a switch. Venture capital just started pouring into AI startups. In 2017 alone, Chinese venture capital investment in AI jumped by like 48%, and they actually surpassed the U.S. in AI investment for the first time.
Wow, 48%, that's insane. So it wasn't just hype, there was serious money backing up this AI fever.
Exactly. And Lee argues that this wasn't just some random coincidence. It's deeply rooted in the culture of China's tech scene, which is, completely different from Silicon Valley.
Totally different, yeah. So how is it different? Paint a picture for me.
Okay, imagine this. It's super competitive, fast-paced, almost like a gladiator arena.
A gladiator arena, wow. So it's not like the laid-back, move fast and break things vibe of Silicon Valley.
Not even close. In China, it's all about copy, adapt, and conquer.
Hmm.
Speed and market share are everything.
That's intense. Does that mean there's less room for creativity? Like if everyone's just focused on copying and iterating quickly, how do truly groundbreaking ideas emerge?
It's a great question, and Lee actually grapples with that in the book. He says, while this cutthroat environment can sometimes lead to a lot of redundant products, it also forces companies to be incredibly resilient and adaptable. They have to constantly evolve and refine their strategies to survive.
It's like survival of the fittest, but for tech companies.
Exactly. And in the end, this benefits consumers because they get better products and services faster.
Makes sense. And speaking of speed and aggression, Lee talks about this concept of going heavy, which I think perfectly captures this approach. He gives the example of Alibaba versus eBay in China.
Oh yeah, that's a classic example. So basically, Alibaba was like the Chinese version of eBay, but they were way more willing to offer free services and just massive subsidies to win over customers.
I remember reading about that. It was like a no-holds-barred battle. And eBay, they just couldn't keep up, right?
Nope, they ended up retreating from China altogether.
It's a pretty stark example of how Chinese companies are willing to play the long game, taking short-term losses to gain a long-term strategic advantage. And this going heavy mentality, it also plays a big role in the rise of China's super apps, which are a totally different beast than anything we have in the West.
Oh yeah, those super apps, they're wild.
They are. Like, take WeChat, for example. I mean, it's not just a messaging app. It's like a portal to everything in China.
I know, it's like your entire digital life, all in one app. You can pay your bills, book appointments, order food, even unlock a shared bike, all within WeChat.
It's mind-boggling. And this blurring of lines between the online and offline worlds, it's something that's really unique to China, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's had a huge impact on how AI is being developed and deployed in China. Like imagine a world where your entire digital and physical life is interconnected and AI is powering every aspect of it.
It's almost like a sci-fi movie come to life. But, it's not just about these super aggressive tech companies. The Chinese government also plays a pretty active role in promoting innovation, right?
Oh yeah, the government is a major player in this whole AI revolution. They've launched all sorts of initiatives like mass entrepreneurship and mass innovation.
That sounds pretty ambitious. What exactly does that mean?
Basically, they're encouraging everyone, like ordinary citizens, to become entrepreneurs. It's led to a boom in startups, and it's really shifted the culture towards embracing risk-taking and innovation.
It's like they're saying, hey, everyone can be an entrepreneur.
Exactly. And they're not just talking the talk. They're pumping money into tech infrastructure, giving tax breaks to startups, and even creating entire innovation hubs from scratch.
It's like they're building entire ecosystems designed to foster AI development. And it seems like it's working. Like, I remember reading about beggars in China accepting digital payments.
Oh, yeah. It's like mobile payments became so ubiquitous that even the beggars adapted.
Exactly. It's not like that happened by accident. These tech companies, they heavily subsidized both consumers and merchants to drive adoption. They were willing to lose money up front to gain market dominance.
It's that long game mentality again. And it's paid off big time. China's way ahead of the West when it comes to things like mobile payments and other digital technologies, and it's largely because of this aggressive government-backed approach.
So we've got this vibrant, competitive internet ecosystem, strong government support, and a culture that's primed for adopting new technology. What else is fueling China's AI engine?
Well, you can't forget about the talent.
Right, the talent. I know China has a huge population, but are they really producing world-class AI engineers?
They are, and tons of them. Lee points out that China has this massive pool of well-trained engineers, and now they have access to cutting-edge research and technology.
It's like they're playing catch-up, but they're doing it at warp speed.
Exactly. And they're hungry to learn. Lee shares this story about students in Hefei who were so eager to study AI that they'd spend hours poring over textbooks in the dark because they couldn't afford electricity.
Wow, that's dedication. It's like they're making up for lost time, and they're doing it with incredible passion. So you've got this incredible talent pool, tons of government support, a culture that embraces risk and innovation. But what about the hardware? Isn't China still behind the West when it comes to semiconductor technology?
They were, but they're catching up fast, especially in areas like AI chip development. Like, take Bitmain, for
What do
example.
you mean? Refresh my memory.
They make chips for Bitcoin mining, and they basically dominate that market. It just goes to show how China is leveraging its manufacturing capabilities to build the infrastructure they need for AI.
So they're not just developing the software, they're building the hardware too. It's like a 1-2 punch. And all of this is happening with a very different approach than what we see in the US, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's like two totally different philosophies when it comes to AI development.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What's the difference between how the US and China are approaching AI?
Well, in the US, there's a lot of emphasis on ethical considerations, responsible AI development, making sure AI is used for good. But in China, the focus is more on rapid deployment and achieving concrete economic goals.
So it's like a difference in priorities. The US is more concerned with the how, and China's more focused on the what.
Exactly. And this difference is really apparent when you look at some of the specific projects that are happening in China. Like Lead talks about the Shangyun area.
The Shangyun area, what's that?
It's basically a city south of Beijing that they're building from scratch to showcase all this technological progress.
Yeah.
And AI is at the heart of it. It's a massive undertaking, like something you just wouldn't see in the US.
It's amazing how China can just decide to build an entirely new city and then just do it. It speaks to their ambition and their willingness to just go for it. And this difference in approach, it's not just limited to big projects like that. It's also evident in how they're implementing AI across various industries. Like Lee talks about those 4 waves of AI.
Right, those 4 waves. Each wave represents a different stage of AI development, and China is really riding them to the forefront of the AI revolution.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's break down those 4 waves and see how China's leading the charge. I think that's a perfect place to pick up in part 2 of this deep dive. Okay, so those 4 waves of AI, I'm ready to ride them. Where do we start?
Well, the first wave is all about what Lee calls Internet AI.
Internet AI. Okay, it sounds kind of familiar, but I'm not sure I get what that really means. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, so basically it's all about using AI to personalize our online experiences. Like, think about how you get those super specific recommendations on Amazon or Netflix or even on social media.
Oh, okay, so it's like those algorithms that seem to know what I want before I even do.
Exactly. It's like having a digital puppet master pulling the strings behind the scenes of our online world.
It's pretty amazing, but also kind of creepy. Like, is there a risk of getting trapped in a filter bubble? Where you're only exposed to information that confirms your existing beliefs?
Yeah, that's a real concern. And Lee talks about that in the book. He says that while Internet AI can create those filter bubbles, it can also be used to connect people with information and ideas that they might not have found on their own. Like, think about Tuqiao, that Chinese news app.
Oh yeah, Tu Chao. I remember reading about that.
They use AI to personalize news feeds for millions of users.
Yeah, and Lee says their algorithm can figure out what a user likes to read within like 24 hours just based on their activity.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah, a little scary, too.
Right. But that's kind of the power of AI. It can sift through all this data and find patterns that we as humans might never even notice.
Exactly. And remember, data is what fuels AI. So China, with its massive internet population, they just have this huge advantage because they have so much data to work with.
It's like a self-perpetuating cycle. More data leads to better AI, which leads to even more data.
Exactly. Okay, so that's internet AI. Now let's move on to the second wave, which Lee calls business AI.
Business AI. Okay, this sounds a little more Wall Street-y.
Well, kind of is. It's about using AI to optimize business processes, improve decision-making, and, ultimately boost profits.
So instead of recommending movies, it's recommend business decisions.
Pretty much, Lee gives this great example of a company called Smart Finance.
Smart finance. Okay, what do they do?
They're a Chinese company that uses AI to assess loan applications, and they have no human loan officers.
Wait, what? No humans? So it's like AI is taking over Wall Street. But how can an algorithm be better at assessing risk than a human?
Well, Lee explains that AI can actually be more accurate than humans when it comes to making these kinds of complex decisions, especially those that involve a ton of data.
Really? I mean, humans have intuition, experience, things that algorithms can't replicate, right?
Not necessarily. See, humans tend to focus on what Lee calls strong features, which are the obvious factors that are related to a particular outcome. But AI can take into account thousands of these tiny little data points called weak features that might seem irrelevant but can actually be incredibly predictive.
Weak features. That's an interesting way to put it. So it's like AI can see those hidden connections that we might miss. Can you give me an example?
Sure, imagine you're applying for a loan. A human loan officer might look at your credit score, your income, your employment history, the obvious stuff. But an AI algorithm might also look at things like your browsing history, your social media activity, even the kind of music you listen to.
Wait, the music I listen to? How could that possibly be relevant to my ability to repay a loan?
Well, taken on its own, it might not mean much. But when you combine it with thousands of other data points, it can actually reveal patterns that might indicate whether you're a good risk or not.
It's like AI can see through us in ways we don't even understand ourselves. That's both fascinating and kind of terrifying. Okay, so we've got internet AI, which is shaping our online experiences, and business AI, which is revolutionizing the way businesses operate. What's next?
The third wave is all about perception AI. This is where things start to get really futuristic.
Perception AI. Okay,
Yeah.
this is about machines like seeing and hearing the world.
You got it. It's about using technologies like computer vision and speech recognition to give machines a more human-like understanding of their surroundings.
So instead of just processing data, perception AI is about interacting with the physical world. Okay, so what are some real-world applications of this?
Tons of them. Think self-driving cars, facial recognition, those voice assistants that are always listening.
Right, right. And Lee gives the example of iFlyTech, a Chinese company that's developed some amazing AI-powered diagnostic tools.
Yeah. Their tools can actually rival human doctors in terms of accuracy when it comes to diagnosing certain conditions.
That's incredible. I mean, imagine a world where anyone, anywhere, can have access to top-notch medical care through AI.
It's a powerful vision, right?
Yeah.
Especially for people in underserved communities who might not have access to specialists.
It's like AI could democratize healthcare. But I also can't help but think about the potential downsides. What if these systems make mistakes? Or what if they're used for surveillance and control rather than actually helping people?
Those are definitely valid concerns and things we need to be mindful of as AI continues to develop. But for now, let's move on to the fourth and final wave, which Lee calls autonomous AI. This is where things get really mind-blowing.
Autonomous AI. Okay, this is about machines acting independently in the real world, right? Like robots taking our jobs, driving our cars, and, maybe even making decisions for us.
Well, we're not quite there yet, but that's definitely the direction we're headed. Autonomous AI is about taking those seeing and hearing capabilities of perception AI and giving machines the ability to actually act on that information.
So it's like giving them hands and feet, essentially.
Exactly. And this is where we start to see things like self-driving cars, drones that can deliver packages, robots that can work in factories or even in our homes.
It's like a sci-fi movie come to life. And all of these waves, they're not just happening one after the other, right? It's like they're all overlapping and influencing each other, creating this incredibly complex and rapidly evolving AI landscape.
You got it. And as these waves continue to crest, they're going to have a huge impact on, well, pretty much every aspect of our lives, especially the future of work, which I know is something you're particularly interested in.
Yeah, that's what I'm most curious about. All this talk about AI superpowers and technological revolutions is fascinating, but what does it actually mean for us? Like, are we all going to be replaced by robots? Is that the future we're headed towards?
That's the million-dollar question, and one that we'll definitely dig into in the next part of our deep dive. Lee doesn't sugarcoat the potential challenges, but he also offers some really insightful solutions and a more hopeful vision for the future.
Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle the big question, the one that's been looming over this entire conversation. What does the future of work actually look like in this brave new world of AI?
Yeah, it's the question everyone's asking, right?
Yeah.
And Kai-Fu Lee really dives into it in AI Superpowers. And thankfully, he doesn't just offer these doom and gloom predictions.
Okay, good. I'm ready for some optimism. But
Yeah,
we have to address the challenges, right? Like Lee talks about these two types of job losses that AI could bring about. One-to-one replacement and ground-up disruption. Can you break those down for me?
sure. So one-to-one replacement, that's the more straightforward one. It's basically where an AI just directly takes over a job that a human is currently doing.
Hmm.
Like, picture a robot replacing a factory worker on an assembly line.
Right, right. That's kind of been happening for decades, right? Like
Yeah,
automation isn't a new concept.
exactly. But this ground-up disruption, that's a little more radical.
Yeah, how so?
Well, it's not just about AI doing the same job better or faster. It's about AI completely changing the way an entire industry works. Like, it's not about automating the existing processes. It's about creating completely new ones.
So instead of just making existing jobs more efficient, AI is actually creating entirely new categories of jobs.
Not necessarily. Sometimes it's about eliminating entire categories of jobs. Like, remember that example of Smart Finance, the Chinese company using AI to do loans?
Yeah, the one with no human loan officers.
Right. So they didn't just replace loan officers with AI. They designed their entire business model around AI so that they didn't need loan officers at all.
I see. So it's not just about AI doing our jobs better, it's about AI changing the very nature of work itself.
Exactly. And as these AI-powered companies become more efficient, they put pressure on traditional companies to adapt or, well, or go out of business.
Mhm.
So even if your job isn't directly replaced by a robot, your whole industry could be disrupted.
It's kind of like a domino effect, isn't it? AI disrupts one industry, then another, and eventually it ripples through the whole economy. It's kind of scary to think about.
I know. It is. But Lee doesn't just leave us with this bleak outlook. He offers some pretty interesting perspectives on how we can navigate this transition.
Okay, yeah. I'm definitely ready for that part. What's the game plan? What do we do?
Well, first and foremost, he stresses the importance of education and retraining. Equipping people with the skills they'll need in this new AI-powered economy. Like, think data science, software development, AI engineering, all that stuff.
So we need to future-proof our workforce, basically. But what about those who can't or don't want to retrain? Like, not everyone is cut out to be a software engineer.
Yeah, that's true. And Lee acknowledges that retraining isn't a solution for everyone. He also talks about ideas like work sharing.
Work sharing. What's that?
So it's basically where companies reduce the number of hours for all employees instead of laying off a portion of the workforce, sort of spreading the work around.
Oh, interesting. So everyone keeps their job, but they work fewer hours.
Exactly. And this could be encouraged through government policies, to incentivize companies to do it.
It's like spreading the wealth, spreading the work, making sure everyone has a piece of the pie.
Right. And he also explores more radical ideas like universal basic income.
Oh, right. UBI. That's the idea of giving everyone a certain amount of money, regardless of whether they work or not. That's a pretty hot button issue.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And Lee doesn't shy away from the potential challenges and, unintended consequences of UBI, but he does present it as an option worth considering, especially as traditional jobs become more scarce.
It's a pretty big idea for sure, and it kind of speaks to this larger question of how we define work and purpose in a society that's increasingly automated.
Well,
If robots are doing all the jobs, then what does that mean for us?
that's a really deep question. It's one that Lee explores in the book, drawing on his own personal experiences.
Right, his own battle with cancer. It's not just an academic exercise for him, it's very personal.
Exactly. Facing his own mortality forced him to really think about what truly matters in life. And he realized that while AI can do incredible things, it can't replicate those essential human qualities like love, compassion, creativity, connection, the things that really make us human.
It's a powerful reminder that AI should be a tool that serves us, not the other way around.
Absolutely. And this brings us back to Lee's solutions for the AI age. He really emphasizes the importance of focusing on those uniquely human qualities, the things that AI can't replicate.
It's like shifting our values from just economic productivity to something more meaningful.
Exactly. Like, he suggests this idea of a social investment stipend, which would basically reward people for doing work that benefits society, like caregiving, community service, education, things like that.
It's a pretty radical idea, but it makes you think about what kind of world we want to create. Do we want a world where machines do everything and humans are just consumers, or do we want a world where humans and machines work together, each leveraging their unique strengths to create something better?
That's the choice we have to make, and it's a choice that we need to make consciously, you
Yeah.
know? Lee doesn't give us all the answers, but he does provide a framework for thinking about these really complex issues.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've gone from China's rise as an AI superpower to the potential impacts on the future of work, the global economy. It's been a fascinating conversation.
It has. We've really explored the forces that are driving China's AI revolution, the potential of AI to transform so many different industries, and the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for all of us.
And through it all, Kai-Fu Lee's insights and perspectives have been so valuable. He doesn't shy away from the tough questions, and he ultimately offers a hopeful vision for the future, a future where AI helps us create a more just and equitable world.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, I just want to leave you with one question to ponder, one that's really inspired by Lee's book. In a world where machines can do almost anything, what does it actually mean to be human?
That's a powerful question and one that I think we'll all be wrestling with for years to come. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI superpowers. I hope you've learned something new and that you'll continue to explore these really important questions with us.